I'm Edward October. The sound you hear is a crawling, festering swamp shrouded in shadow and mist. This is the start of Octoberpod.
I freeze at the path's end, gulping the thick air into my lungs. Sweat beads my forehead, and my petticoat clings as a second skin to my legs. My chest heaves with aching tightness. Before me, looming like a deeper patch of night, stand the Spanish moss-draped juniper and cypress trees of the Great Dismal Swamp. Since childhood, the swamp has filled me with horror. It remains a treasure trove of adventure and natural wonder, as well as danger. Bears and wolves stalk unwary men. Snakes lurk in hidden places with poison dripping from their fangs. One could take a wrong step with ease and vanish. Drowning in mud is not a quick death.
The Sleepless and the Deep, based upon the story Sleepless by Whitney Zahar, narrated by Nikki Young, creator-host of Serial Napper, with Edward October.
There are tales of ghosts, of witches and their demon cohorts, of spirits of nature and of the savages. But these are just stories, told to delight and scare a little girl by a brother who, at heart, meant no harm. I shiver as a light breeze sends the trees whispering to me. My brother has been drawn to the swamp since he was a young boy. He braved the swamp's hazards, searching for secret places to play and explore. One time, when I'd swallowed my fear enough to follow him, I almost fell victim to a water moccasin, ready to sink its harsh fangs into my heel. The vigilant James, only 11 years old, acted just in time. He comforted me, led me away while the snake floated, head mashed into a dark, bloody pulp. "I didn't expect you to venture to this place," he said, his hand shaking around my shoulders. "It's not like you to be reckless." I shrugged from his grasp, glaring at him. "I heard you plain as day taunting me that I was too afraid to join you." He said that he'd never tease me. Not allowed. He said that I was the one muttering, "I'll show him I'm brave." But I never spoke those words. I only thought them. Then he said, "Well, control your thoughts then. They're too loud."
In the early 18th century, surviving past the age of 5 was quite a feat for a child. James and Anne Thompson were special, born from their mother's womb only minutes apart. More miraculous was that both survived to be healthy teenagers. They were good children and attended church. However, they were mysterious in a way no one could comprehend, for the twins could speak to each other without moving their lips, uttering no sound. As they grew older, they could call each other from long distances and see through each other's eyes. It was kept secret between the two of them, whether it was a gift of God or the devil. This telepathic ability was something in the realm of the unknown and unaccepted. Anne was more terrified of this power than anything held in the swamp.
From nowhere, clawed fingers snatch my linen cap from my head. I shriek with panicked struggles against a wild assailant until I tear myself free. My cap hangs like a shredded moon from the prickled branches of the juniper tree, along with tendrils of my hair glinting like tangled gold. I gulp down the rancid air and run my fingers through my disheveled locks. I pray for God's help as I glance behind me to discover the path I'd just traversed is now obscured by writhing, whispering trees and bubbling mud. It's too late to turn back. The swamp has trapped me just as I believed it would. "Anne, this way. The clear female voice rings in my ear, but all I can see through the darkness is a globe of warm white light winking at me through the trees. It seems to sway excitedly, and the voice giggles in my head with delighted music. "Come," the voice says, "follow me."
Charlotte Gordon rolled in the grass, laughing and stretching her hands towards an expansive sky. She had counted 9 stars for 9 nights, and slept with a mirror under her pillow to conjure the face of her true love to appear in her dreams. Charlotte confessed to Anne that the face she had seen was that of Anne's brother, James. But as the 2 girls spoke that day in the grass, Anne seemed to be miles away. Anne's skin was prickling as she reached out to touch her brother's mind.
He is close, walking up behind us, so happy to see his love, but he has a happy secret.
Anne told Charlotte of James's plans to propose marriage. Charlotte, giddy at the prospect, kissed Anne's cheek and told her friend that she'd be glad to one day call her sister. Charlotte knew of the gift Anne possessed. James had told her. It was witchery, of course, but witchery of the whitest sort, she was certain. When James arrived, he and Charlotte flew hand in hand to the swamp. Charlotte was James's equal in courage, and was more than willing to join him in his many adventures in the wild. Sometimes they did more than just paddle their canoe across the waters of Lake Drummond, more than what Anne wanted to view from her brother's mind. Anne, lost in her reveries, pricked her finger with a sewing needle. She put her finger in her mouth, sucked the pain away, as James joyfully twirled his new fiancée in a circle, kissing her.
My petticoat and jacket are so awash with mud that the original colors are all but forgotten. My legs are weak and trembling, welted by thorns, yet I stagger onwards. A branch whips and slices my cheek. With a mute whimper, I cup the gash with a hand that's crusted with blood and pain. Nearby or far away, I can't tell in the labyrinth of trees and night, an owl is hooting. I stop to catch my breath, listening for the rustle of wings. Owls are like angels watching over us. It is said that if one perches at the foot of a bed, the sleeper who awakens to behold the sight will die very soon.
Charlotte woke, frantic, to the sight of an owl at the foot of her bed. She went to Anne for prayers, but her fears were made light. Not long after, Anne stood over her friend, who lay with skin like wax, her limp hair spread out on the pillow like brown swamp water. No breath issued from between those shriveled lips. The heart no longer beat behind that skeletal chest. She had been in such pain, burning from a fever, that refused to set her free. Anne stayed by her day and night, watching her waste away before her eyes, and she could do nothing. James's voice drifted into her mind from a great distance, from the port city of Norfolk, where he journeyed with father, touching Anne's mind, asking and pounding echoes after his fiancée. And Anne could not tell him what was happening. She held back her thoughts, not wishing to destroy his happiness. With her dying breath, Charlotte told her friend to promise to tell her brother James that she'd be waiting for him on the banks of Lake Drummond. When James returned, it was with no knowledge of Charlotte's death, and yet she was cold in the earth. His family gave him the grievous news. His cry sliced its sorrowful blade into Anne's soul, and as she fell to the ground, thrashing and screaming like a madman, She clutched at her ears, but still heard him in her head.
Always there. Be silent, please. Be silent, be silent, be silent. Lake Drummond, waiting for him. She'll wait for him at Lake Drummond. Waiting.
James bolted upright. His sudden movement startled his sister, who was nodding in a chair by his bedside. He gripped her with violence she never imagined he possessed, his fingers like iron bruising her arms. "Where is she?" he hissed, his eyes burning with a strange green fire. "You lied to me, Anne. If she's dead, why did she tell you she'll be waiting by Lake Drummond? She's alive, but lost and frightened." He moved faster than a serpent strike, thrusting Anne from him. She and the chair crashed to the floor. He staggered from bed, across the room, out the door. "She's out there, and I'll go find her," he howled. "Once she's home, I'll care for her for the rest of our days." In a desperate attempt, Anne reached out with her bruised arms and with her mind to her brother.
See the truth. Don't go.
He lashed out at her with his own mind, slapped her with his madness. Stunned, she huddled by the bed until morning. James crashed through the swamp, searching for a love that Anne knew was nowhere to be found. Anne, meanwhile, was seized with horrible visions, so real she could smell the rot and decay of the swamp. When branches tore at James's chest, she too felt the sting. For 3 weeks, every time she closed her eyes, she'd experience her brother's deluded journey. So she stopped sleeping, but she could still see.
A beautiful white light dancing across the surface of Lake Drummond. James, his fingernails now splintered, builds a raft from his ragged clothes, vines, and wood. He paddles out to that light with his bare hands. Then the raft disintegrates under his knees, and his last sight is of the rippling water closing over, the light blinking out.
James woke to find himself on the lake's shore. Beside him, her smile filled with love and sadness, was Charlotte. Madness melted away and a curious peace descended upon him. He realized she was dead. The bitter odor of sweat and sickness clinging to her skin and paper-thin lips. But she kept the promise left with the living. She had waited for him. And James walked on the lake's surface and viewed his own corpse in a watery coffin.
He stands in a shaft of moonlight, dressed in a ripped shirt and stained in mud from head to toe. About his feet, a snake uncoils, wraps about his middle, and rests upon his shoulders. His eyes smolder with that odd green fire, and his skin is paler than the moon and clings to his cheekbones like wet silk. Flesh sags from his face and arms, with skeletal fingers reaching for my cheek and reaching until he vanishes. Night after night he calls upon me, as did Charlotte, who often accompanies him. They stand together whispering in my mind. I don't know whether to laugh, scream, or weep. I do know that it's past time I pay them a visit.
James and Charlotte rowed their spectral white canoe across Lake Drummond. Occasionally their laughter ran in Anne's ears as she sat cross-legged like a child on the bank. They waved to her, and she waved back. It was so good of Charlotte to come to Anne with her lantern, to guide her through the quagmire. I
ventured into the swamp, I supposed, to put my fears to rest. Now, dipping my fingers into amber waters that were said to have healing powers, I wonder what I have to fear. My brother and my friend, ravaged by death, are reunited and happy. I've missed them so. Now, at last, I can rest easy and cease to be a burden on others. When I was a little girl, I too went outside for 9 nights and counted 9 stars in the heavens. On the final night, I went to bed with a mirror under my pillow, eager to dream of the handsome young man who would be my true love. But instead, the shadowy swamp, alluring, vital, and treacherous, caressed my dreams like a demon lover. I knew it would have me one way or another. I cast my gaze downwards, where my own corpse floats just beneath my fingers. Its hair spreads wide in the water. The long, angry gash on the cheek was the only flaw upon a face still and quiet in its beauty. The green eyes, burnt by tears, haunted by beholding too much of the unknown, are now closed. No more voices, no more sleepless nights. Sleep well and deep.
Anne blew a kiss to the body she once inhabited and strolled on the lake's surface to the canoe, where James and Charlotte were waiting for her. It's intermission time, folks. Time to hit the snack bar for a taste-tempting treat like a hot, crispy, hand-battered corn dog or a bucket of rich, buttery popcorn fresh out of the popper. The sodas are sparkling, so why not get one now and another for later? Today we're telling ghost stories that showcase the diverse and richly historic landscapes of America, from the swamps of Virginia and later to the hills and frontier towns of Missouri. Some of the best examples of horror stories that showcase the untamed places of America can be found in the now forgotten frontier of made-for-TV movies from the 1970s. Take Moon of the Wolf from 1972, for example.
Who killed her?
He was wild dogs, boy. This couldn't be done by a human person.
Take your hands off me,
May you hold on to your manners, boy.
The mark was along here. That's where a left-handed person would strike you, if you were facing him. You've got a murder, Sheriff.
You saying it wasn't wild dog?
There's more than one kind.
What did you find when you examined Ellie?
Just that she was murdered. Dogs didn't do it.
Like I said.
Murder of poor white trash Cajun girl Ellie Burafoo turns a backwater Louisiana community upside down, uncovering family secrets, scandalous affairs, and socioeconomic injustices. Was she murdered by the man who got her pregnant? Or was she killed by a ravenous beast? This ABC Movie of the Week is based upon the novel of the same name by Leslie Whitten, and is part whodunit, part Southern Gothic, and part creature feature with a pinch of early 70s melodrama thrown into the gumbo for good measure. The Fugitive's David Jansen heads up a cast of accomplished character actors at the height of their powers, including soap opera regular Barbara Rush, Bradford Dillman, Jeffrey Lewis, Royal Dano, the voice of Disney's Abraham Lincoln animatronic, John Davis Chandler, former baseball pro and General Hospital original cast member John Berardino, and Claudia McNeil of A Raisin in the Sun fame, many of them doing a great job affecting very specific local dialects. Jeffrey Lewis, whom you'll recognize from Tobe Hooper's Salem's Lot, the films of Clint Eastwood, or as the father of Juliette Lewis, is particularly fearless in this regard. The werewolf, which appears on screen only in the final act, is well rendered considering the picture's meager TV budget. There are many who like to pan the makeup effects, but as far as Wolfman-style creature designs go, it gets the job done. I mean, we're not talking Rick Baker or Rob Bottin here. And they had the good sense to shoot the werewolf in soft focus or in the shadows or through a wall of flames. When it comes to the voodoo of location, to quote Werner Herzog, Moon of the Wolf has it in spades. Shot on location in towns outside Baton Rouge, every sun-baked frame is obscured by the dark boughs of shaggy willow trees or tall reeds at the river's edge. You can almost smell the stanky tang of the bayou, and the oppressive heat is always present, almost as if it's a member of the cast. You can see sweat dripping from every pore and soaking into everyone's clothes. Like many telefilms, this one is in the public domain and can readily be seen on YouTube or downloaded from the Internet Archive. Or if you're a superfan like me, you can retire your well-worn Good Times home video VHS and upgrade to the handsome Vinegar Syndrome Blu-ray.
The devil was once the most favored of the host of angels serving the Lord. But pride welled in his breast. He thought it unseemly for him to serve. The devil and his band of followers, who likewise suffered the sin of pride, were defeated in battle by the Lord and his host, and were banished to the outermost depths of hell, never to know the presence of the Lord or look on heaven again. Smarting with his wounds, but all the more swollen with pride, the devil cried out from the depths, "It is better to rule in hell than serve in heaven." The devil proclaimed what was lost in heaven would be gained on earth. He said, "My offspring, the gargoyles, will one day rule the Lord's works, earth and man." And so it came to pass that while man ruled on earth, the gargoyles waited, lurking, hidden from the light. Reborn every 600 years in man's reckoning of time, the gargoyles joined battle against man to gain dominion over the earth. In each coming, the gargoyles were nearly destroyed by men who flourished in greater numbers. Now it has been so many hundreds of years that it seems the ancient statues and paintings of gargoyles are just products of man's imagination. In this year, with man's thoughts turned toward the many ills he has brought upon himself, man has forgotten his most ancient adversary, the gargoyles.
From that intro, you might expect 1972's Gargoyles to be a Miltonian tale of the battle between man and demon. You would be wrong, though. Instead, what you'll find is a top-notch creature feature that beautifully showcases the otherworldly, sun-baked desert vistas of the American Southwest. Carlsbad Caverns National Park, to be exact. When an expert in the occult and his buxom daughter venture into the desert to examine strange relics at a roadside attraction, they unwittingly set off a series of events that will pit them, a gang of dirt bike hooligans, and the local police against a tribe of gargoyle-like lizard people who've been waiting 600 years for a chance at world domination. Like Moon of the Wolf, Gargoyles has a cast chock full of character actors who seem familiar, even though you can't name them. Pro football player turned actor Bernie Casey, whom Trekkies will know from Deep Space Nine, Bond fans will know as Felix Leiter in Never Say Never Again, and whom normies may recognize from Revenge of the Nerds, is unrecognizable as the lead gargoyle. His voice is dubbed by Vic Perrin, who also narrates the prologue you just heard. Perrin is perhaps best known as the voice of the announcer on The Outer Limits. A young, baby-faced Scott Glenn shows up as one of the bikers. Youngsters may know Glenn as Stick on the Netflix Daredevil series. Horror fans of a certain age will know him from Silence of the Lambs. And old farts like me still love to hate him for his role in Urban Cowboy. Rounding out the cast are Dark Shadows Grayson Hall and TV regular Jennifer Salt, wearing the hardest working tube top in the business. The creature designs come courtesy of Stan Winston, of all people, and are quite effective, especially for TV. Whenever the creatures appear, they're shot in slow motion, which, when you add the creepy atonal music score and moody desert landscape, produces a very eerie effect indeed. It even features an element of found audio, which used to scare the living shit out of me as a kid. Like Moon of the Wolf, the copyright on this picture is so muddled that it might as well be public domain. You can therefore find it for free on many streamers. For our last TV movie of the week, we travel from the desert to the jungle. The neon jungle of Las Vegas, to be exact.
May I introduce myself? My name is Kolchak of the Daily Chronicle.
Kolchak reports the bizarre, the supernatural, the unexplainable.
You again is another crazy story.
This nut thinks he is a vampire.
You know what I call that? Irresponsible yellow journalism.
He has killed 4, maybe 5 women.
I saw that so-called super killer wipe up the streets with your so-called police force.
They don't want any help from amateur bloodhounds like you.
I've been a reporter for 22 years. I've been a police officer for 30. Well, then why don't you retire?
Each man in the field is issued one of these, and one of these.
Are you suggesting that we pound one of these into Scorzony's chest?
No, into his heart.
Darren McGavin, the Night Stalker.
The Night Stalker is the tale of a sleazy, down-on-his-luck, investigative newspaper reporter on the trail of a vampire stalking the escorts, cocktail waitresses, and other night owls of Sin City. The incomparable Darren McGavin, best known as Ralphie's old man in A Christmas Story, is on the case as Carl Kolchak, tracking down the pasty-faced bloodsucker Janos Skorzeny. The Night Stalker is perhaps the best vampire picture of the 1970s, and one of the best telefilms of all time, thanks in part to a script by legendary writer Richard Matheson, whose screen credits include Steven Spielberg's Duel, Hammer's The Devil Rides Out, The Legend of Hell House, from his own novel, and scads of the best television ever written for series like The Twilight Zone, Star Trek The Next Generation, and The Alfred Hitchcock Hour. Not to mention entries into the Roger Corman, Vincent Price cycle of Edgar Allan Poe films. And if you haven't picked up on the pattern yet, The Night Stalker also features a cast of familiar faces with unfamiliar names. Cats like Kent Smith. He played Oliver in Val Lewton's Cat People. Simon Oakland. He's the psychiatrist who explains everything at the end of Psycho. Elisha Cook Jr. I know you'd remember him from Salem's Lot, or Blackula, or the House on Haunted Hill. And Sheriff Lobo himself, Claude Akins. No, there's not much about this picture that hasn't already been said, but I will reiterate that the Night Stalker and the character of Kolchak, who returns in a sequel and a short-lived series, are massive influences on everything from The X-Files to Supernatural and even Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And in terms of the American landscape, the figure of a pale, anachronistic-looking bloodsucker makes for a stark visual contrast with the flashing neon and garish fashions of Las Vegas in the early 70s. Yet the vampire seems to move virtually unseen among the throngs of mindless slot junkies, strung-out drunks and gamblers, and soulless city bureaucrats. Speaking of bureaucrats, The Night Stalker works just as well as a paranoid political conspiracy thriller, in addition to being a creature feature par excellence. Kolchak's tragic fate in the last act, which is foreshadowed by the framing device established in the cold open, serves as a damning commentary on American journalism and politics. The Night Stalker comes with my highest possible recommendation and is best enjoyed on the handsome Kino Lorber Blu-ray release. There's no guarantee that you'll be able to find it for free on a streamer like Tubi or some such, but if you do, pop up a mess of Jiffy Pop and enjoy. Speaking of popcorn, better fill up on some while it's hot, because Act 2 of Octoberpod starts now.
To the south of where the road between Leesville and Hardy and the state of Missouri crosses the East Fork of May Creek stands an abandoned house. Nobody has lived in it since the summer of 1879, and it is fast going to pieces. For some 3 years before, it was occupied by the family of Charles May, whose ancestral creek near which it stands took its name. Mr. May's family consisted of a wife, an adult son, and 2 young girls. The son's name was John. The names of the daughters are unknown to the writer of this sketch. John May was of a morose and surly disposition, not easily moved to anger, but having an uncommon gift of sullen, implacable hate. Charles was quite otherwise, having a sunny, jovial disposition, but with a quick temper, like a sudden flame kindled in a wisp of straw which consumes it in a flash and is no more. He cherished no resentments, and with his anger gone, was quick to apologize in order to reconcile. Charles had a brother living nearby who was unlike him in all respects, and it was talked about in the neighborhood that John had inherited his disposition from his uncle. One day, a misunderstanding arose between father and son. Harsh words ensued, and Charles struck his son in the face with his fist. John quietly wiped away the blood that followed the blow, fixed his eyes upon the already regretful offender, and said with cold composure, "You'll die for that."
The Store in Nolan by Ambrose Bierce. Narrated by Paige Elmore, creator-host of the Pop Culture Diary and Reverie True Crime.
The words were overheard by 2 brothers, their last name Jackson, who were approaching the men at the moment, but seeing them engaged in a quarrel, they retreated, apparently unseen. Charles May afterward relayed the unfortunate occurrence to his wife and explained that he had apologized to their son John for the hasty blow, but without avail, the young man not only rejected his attempts at apologizing, but refused to withdraw his terrible threat. Nevertheless, there was no open rupture of relations. John continued living with the family, and things went on very much as before. One Sunday morning in June of 1879, about 2 weeks after the aforementioned, Charles May left the house immediately after breakfast and took a shovel with him. He said he was going to make an excavation at a certain spring in the woods about a mile away so that the cattle had water. John remained in the house for some hours, keeping himself occupied by shaving, writing letters, and reading a newspaper. His manner was very nearly what it usually was. Perhaps he was a trifle more sullen and surly. At 2 o'clock, John left the house, and at 5 o'clock he returned. The times of his departure and that of his return were not connected with any interest regarding his movements, but were noted by his mother and sisters, as was attested at his trial for murder. They said when he came home, his clothing was wet in spots, as if, so the prosecution afterward pointed out, he had been removing bloodstains from it. They said his manner was strange, his look wild. John complained of illness, then went to his room and took to his bed. Charles never showed back up. During that night and the following day, a search was conducted throughout the woods where the spring was. It didn't result in much except the discovery of both men's footprints in the clay around the spring. John May, in the meantime, had grown rapidly worse with what the local physician called brain fever, and in his delirium raved of murder, but did not say whom he thought to have been murdered, nor whom he imagined to have done the deed. But his threat to Charles was recalled by the Jackson brothers. He was arrested on suspicion, and a deputy sheriff was put in charge of him at his home. Public opinion ran strongly against John, and but for his illness, he would probably have been hanged by a mob. As it was, a meeting of the neighbors was held on Tuesday, and a committee was appointed to watch the case and take any necessary action if circumstances arose that might seem to warrant it. On Wednesday, all was changed. From the town of Nolan, 8 miles away, came a story which put quite a different light on the matter. Nolan consisted of a schoolhouse, a blacksmith's shop, a store, and a half a dozen dwellings. The store was kept by one Henry Odell, a cousin of Charles May. The Sunday afternoon of Charles's disappearance, Mr. Odell and 4 of his neighbors, men of credibility, were sitting in the store smoking and talking. It was a warm day, and both the front and the back door were open. At about 3 o'clock, Charles, who was well known to 3 of them, entered at the front door and left out the back. He was without a hat or a coat. He did not look at them, nor return their greeting, a circumstance which did not surprise because he was evidently seriously hurt. Above the left eyebrow was a wound, a deep gash from which blood flowed, covering the whole left side of the face and neck, saturating his light gray shirt. Everyone had the same thought. He had likely been fighting and was going to the brook directly at the back of the store to wash himself. Perhaps there was a feeling of being considerate, like a backwoods etiquette which restrained them from following him to offer assistance. The court records from which mainly this narrative is drawn are silent as to anything but the fact that they waited for him to return, but he didn't. Bordering the brook behind the store is a forest extending for 6 miles back to the Medicine Lodge Hills. As soon as it became known in the neighborhood that the missing man had been seen in Nolan, there was a noticeable change in public sentiment and feeling. The Vigilance Committee went out of existence without the formality of a resolution. The search along the wooded bottomlands of May Creek was stopped, and nearly the entire male population of the region took to beating the bushes around Nolan and the Medicine Lodge Hills. But no trace was found of Charles May. One of the strangest circumstances of this case is the formal indictment of a person in a murder trial for the supposed killing of a man whose body no human being professed to have seen, one not even known to be dead. We are all more or less familiar with the eccentricities of law, but this instance is thought to be unique. However that may be, it is on record that while recovering from his illness, John May was indicted for the murder of his missing father, Charles. Counsel for the defense appears not to have taken issue with it, and the case was tried on its merits. The prosecution was spiritless and quick. The defense easily established, with regard to the deceased, an alibi. During the time in which John allegedly killed his father, if Charles was miles away from where John was, it is obvious that the deceased must have come to his death at the hands of someone else. John May was acquitted, immediately left the country and has never been heard of since that day. Shortly afterward, his mother and sisters moved to St. Louis. After the farm was eventually in the possession of a man who owns the adjoining land and who has a dwelling of his own, the May house has been vacant and has the somber reputation of being haunted. A day after John had left the country, some boys playing in the woods along May Creek found under a mass of dead leaves, but partly exposed by the rooting of hogs, a shovel, nearly new and bright, except for a spot on one edge which was rusted and stained with blood. The shovel also had the initials CM cut into the handle. This discovery renewed, to some degree, the public excitement that was in the air a few months before. The earth near the spot where the shovel was found was carefully examined, and that resulted in finding the dead body of a man. He had been buried under 2 or 3 feet of soil, and the spot covered with a layer of dead leaves and twigs. There was little composition due to preservative properties in the mineral-bearing soil. Above the left eyebrow was a wound, a deep gash from which blood had flowed, covering the whole left side of the face and neck, saturating a light gray shirt. The skull had been cut through by the blow. The body was that of Charles May, but what was it that passed through Mr. Odell's store that time in Nolan?
Stick around after the credits for a brief word from some of our fellow indie podcasters, creators, and friends. There may even be some bloopers, outtakes, and bonus content as well. You have been listening to Octoberpod. Octoberpod is produced, edited, and directed by Edward October. The series co-producers are M.J. McAdams and Amber Jordan. Logo and banner graphics by Jessica Good. Edward October character design by Nick Calavera. Select still photography courtesy of unsplash.com. Select music cues by Dr. Dreamchip and various other stock music and sound effects courtesy of freesound.org. Music from Bigfoot Apocalypse and Thorax, theme from Octoberpod, composed by Nico Vitezi. All other images, music, and FX cues, except where noted, are sourced from within the public domain. Follow us on YouTube at Octoberpod Home Video, on Instagram, and the app I still call Twitter at Octoberpod VHS, and on TikTok and Blue Sky at Octoberpod. Or find us and all of our links on the World Wide Web at octoberpodvhs.com. For business inquiries or story submissions, email octoberpod@gmail.com. If you enjoyed this program, we'd be very pleased if you told your friends about us. And while you're at it, write us a 5-star or equivalent review wherever you're listening. The man who spoke to you was Mr. Edward October.
Are you looking for a movie podcast with deep dives, interviews, and thoughtful film analysis?
We ain't got none of that. What do we got?
You want to hold the bucket?
Right, I'll hold the bucket, sit in the cuff chair.
There with I will never blink. I'll just be there holding the bucket.
I will never blink on her drapes, most likely. You look like a drape jizzer.
R.I.P. That sweet, sweet pussy.
It is known that Jessica Tandy had the sweetest pussy in Hollywood.
If you don't know, Google it. Don't Google Jessica Tandy's pussy. You guys don't do it. Don't do it.
Doom Generation. Available anywhere you find podcasts.
You feel that? A sudden chill, a tingle down your spine?
It's not a draft, is it?
No, it's the unmistakable sign that we found them. The most terrifyingly delicious ghost stories you've ever heard.
And trust us, we've had some close calls.
We're talking haunted hallways, phantom apparitions, and things that go bump in the night. All served up on our new show, Ghost Bites.
Join us as we dig into the spectral secrets and spooky sightings that will have you sleeping with the lights on.
So if you're brave enough, come grab a bite with us.
Just try not to let it be your last.
Ghost Bites Season 1, now streaming on your favorite podcast platforms.
I gotta do one of these things again. This is Canary of the Canary PI audio drama. I'm just a run-of-the-mill PI trying to make a buck for his next corned beef sandwich. A magnet for the strange, a lure for the macabre. Sometimes the worst kind of monsters are very human. Other times, it's unexplainable. Peculiar short stories with a revolving cast of colorful characters. Say that 10 times fast. Mixing noir, horror, mystery, and drama. Reach us at rpcanarypi.carrd.co or look up Canary PI in your favorite search engine. Gotta go. Lunch is here. Hey, where's the pickle?
This is the swamp thing. Is this in? 1, 2, 3. I guess that's better. James and Charlotte rowed their spectral white canoe across Lake Drummond. Me.
24. And when on the earth he sank to sleep, if slumber his eyelids knew, he lay where the deadly vine doth weep, the venomous tear and nightly steep, the flesh with blistering dew. I'm going to repeat that one more time because I don't know if you wanted the venomous tear or the venomous tear. So that was a tear. Here's one with the venomous tear. 24, venomous tear. And when on the earth he sank to sleep, if slumber his eyelids knew, he lay where the deadly vine doth weep, the venomous tear and nightly steep, the flesh with blistering dew.
I know I've got the TV movie Intermission. It's Intermission. Wow. No, this isn't about serial killer Richard Ramirez. This is the tale of a sleazy... No, this isn't about serial killer... No, this isn't about serial killer Richard Ramirez. Oh, you would be, you fucker.